Hello, I'm Chris Osmond, and this is Solutions. Enough complaining, let's fix America. Today is May 5th, and as usual, I will start off with the recap. But before we get to that, I'd just like to do a little bit of house cleaning and talk about the where I will start the platforms that I will start using as opposed to YouTube. I do want to try to get away from YouTube because I believe that a lot of the times YouTube manipulates the news that you see. I'd like to watch a lot of independent news sources, and then every time YouTube recommends a news source to me after a video plays, they always recommend CNN or MSNBC or one of the other mainstream media sources, which I do watch, but I don't want that recommended, and I think that that's a disingenuous way of handling people's requests, or not the requests, but what people want to view. Because I can't imagine anybody that's watching Jimmy Dore's Secular Talk or the Humanist Report or David Dole's The Rational National want to watch a CNN story after they watch one of these news reports. They can do that by turning on the TV. So there's no need for YouTube to do that. So one of the sources one of the platforms that I will be trying to put videos on instead of YouTube is called Library, and I'll provide more information and a link down below once I get that all set up. Anyway, so yet again, we face another day where our government has failed to meet the needs of the people in the face of a pandemic. This is troubling because it's gone on months. Now, let's imagine if this pandemic was even worse than it actually is. I mean, it's terrible right now, but imagine if it was worse. And our government is basically acting as if their hands are tied. Meanwhile, they're printing trillions of dollars and giving it away to the super rich corporations, and they're not helping the people of this nation, which is not sustainable because in our nation, it's a consumer nation. We need to buy products to have the economy going. And you can't buy products if you don't have money, and you can't get money in a capitalist system unless you work. And right now, too many people are filing for unemployment, and more are coming. More and more of that is coming. So that's not a system that we should be operating under. Capitalism is unsustainable because the scarcity that it produces and that it will continue to produce and increase is a feature. It's not a bug. Trust me, we are not going to be better off in 10 years. Look at the way that the economy has been trending for the past 20, 30, 40 years. I mean, imagine this. In 1979, the minimum wage was about $5 on average. Right now, the minimum wage has only gone up like $3 in the past, since 1979. That doesn't make any sense unless you consider the fact that the economy has basically switched over to a debtor's economy, where so many people have to go into debt through credit cards and these other things to subsidize the low wages that they get paid. Either that, or they go to welfare, food stamps, SNAP, whatever other program subsidies are offered to the poor, which they're trying to eliminate as well. So our government is not necessarily handling this crisis the correct way. I'll put it another way. The United States government is basically telling people or companies that they need to reopen so the economy can move. So capitalism has led to two choices. Either you die through starvation because you're not working and you can't afford food, or you die or kill someone in your family because you've contracted the virus. Those are two bad choices, and those are the only choices that capitalism seems to be leaving us with. So let's at least consider alternative economic systems. Now, one of the things I would like to get to is to recap some of the stuff that I talked about yesterday. One of the first things I talked about was how you can tell when a politician is lying. And one of the simplest ways is to basically just look at or listen to what the politician is doing, look at what they're saying. So there's a bit of research involved in here. Look at what they're doing, listen to what they're saying, and then go out and look at the world that in which you live. Look at how your family lives. Look at how your friends live. Look how your neighbors live. Are their lives substantially better? Because I can guarantee you that the rich, their lives are substantially better. If our government is printing up trillions of dollars and giving it to somebody, but not you, then somebody is really benefiting from that printing press that seems to be running rampantly now, or running rampant now. The other thing I talked about was the fact that Trump is terrible, but he's a symptom of a much bigger problem. One of the ways you can determine this is just look at the history of the United States. Look at how the rich have gotten richer and the poor have gotten poorer. That was all before Trump. Now, Trump is terrible. I know there's going to be people out there like, oh, if you love Trump, then marry him. You know, that kind of stupid mentality. But Trump is not the biggest problem that we face. He's just the latest problem that we face. And he could have been avoided. If people had been taken care of in previous administrations, Trump would have never won. Anyway, enough about that. And the last thing I talked about yesterday was slave wages. And the reason I call them slave wages is because it seems to be more and more nowadays people are not able to survive on the wages that companies are paying. And that is unsustainable, at least if not for everybody. It's unsustainable for those people who have to make that such little money. When you have 44% of the working people in your nation only making $18,000 a year, when that more than likely wouldn't even cover their expenses for rent and food, let alone all the other things that people need to survive and thrive today. That's not a sustainable system either. There's going to be civil unrest, and it's coming, and it's already started. And this all could have been avoided. I mean, there were solutions that I offered years ago. It's the things that I talked about not only in my book, Solutions, enough complaining, let's fix America, but also in my writing. I had videos that I posted back as far as 2011. I posted a video talking about some of the issues that we face now, that if they had been, the solutions that had been offered either by me or others in those video posts, we could have actually mitigated some of the biggest problems that we're facing right now with the virus. And one of the biggest problems is that people do not want to quarantine, and they cannot quarantine because they have to eat. And not working in America right now is not an alternative, because our government is not looking after everybody and trying to make it so that people can and are willing to stay home. Anyway, that's the recap. Now let's get to a new segment that I want to offer, and it's going to be called People, This is Stupid. And basically what I would like to refer to today are, how is it that Wells Fargo has any depositors in its bank, any private depositors in its bank, any individuals depositing money into Wells Fargo? There's something wrong with their thinking, because this is a bank that has been caught several times stealing money from its customers. Now, I know other banks have done that as well, but Wells Fargo seems to be the biggest perpetrator of this kind of fraud, basically. They got caught opening up millions of credit card accounts in the name of their customers without their customers' knowledge. How is that allowed? How is it that nobody at Wells Fargo even faced charges for this stuff? Maybe some low-level employees got fired, but none of the people at the top faced any kind of blowback for this kind of behavior. There's a problem with that, because it wasn't something that was small and nobody could see it, and it wasn't something that could have been caught. It was prevalent. It seemed to be the culture at Wells Fargo, because there's no way that you can open millions of accounts and not, without the client's knowledge, and not have those people up the food chain in that business not realize what's going on. So as solutions to some of this nonsense, I think that when a bank gets caught stealing from its depositors, stealing their money, people should stop depositing money in that bank. So Wells Fargo should have no private or no individual accounts, because I'm sure they don't steal the money of their super rich clients. because they don't want to lose that customer. But they've seen that customers will continue to deposit money. I've talked to people and asked them why they deposit money, and they really have no in Wells Fargo, even after all these things that have happened, and they have no real answer to that. I mean, not only was Wells Fargo stealing, opening credit card accounts without the knowledge of the clients, but they were actually charging insurance on cars, excessive insurance for car owners that the owners didn't need. And there was one other thing that they did, but I'll look it up and I'll put it in the links below, as all the links will be listed down there below. Now, another solution that I offer people is to bank locally or regionally. Smaller banks, they're going to offer more interest, so it's a better deal to go with a smaller bank, because right now these big banks, they're offering almost zero. I mean, when you get a statement and it says, "Oh, you've made 75 cents over the past 6 months," that's useless. 75 cents is only worth 25 cents nowadays, because they've printed trillions of the Federal Reserve has printed trillions of dollars and watered down the money supply. Now, the other solution that people could consider is to bank, use alternative banks, like I said, and look for banks that do offer cashback rewards. Now, some of these banks might only be online. Some of these banks might you'll have to look up some of these banks. There was one that I was banking with. I'll look it up and I'll put it in the links below as well. And I stopped using that bank just because I had different needs, and I wanted to put my money elsewhere, which leads me to the last possible solution, and that is Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies. Now, I know a lot of people are out there, they're unsure about cryptocurrency, they're unsure about Bitcoin, and it fluctuates a lot, blah, blah, blah. But right now, as far as investments are concerned, Bitcoin is one of the most lucrative ones. It and the biggest thing about Bitcoin is that it offers a long-term solution that our government is not doing, as they bandy about with the $1 trillion here, $1 trillion there. As it, that makes no sense, that they can just keep adding trillions of dollars into our economy. There's no way that will not have an impact on the value of every dollar in your pocket after a while. Soon enough, your money will be worthless. Just look at other currencies, which is going to be the final topic that I'll discuss today. The dollar is a fiat currency, which means it's backed by nothing other than our military and guns. And the world is losing respect for our military because, for one, it's being spread so thin, and for two, people are starting to see that America has no allegiance to any other country. I mean, Donald Trump, he's attacked all our supposed allies. So, we're going to be hard pressed to kind of have America be believed to be an ally to another nation. So the dollar is going to lose strength in that regard. The dollar is going to lose strength because oil prices are so low, because everybody's trading in the petrodollar, which helps keep the dollar strong. But the petrodollar is losing value because oil is becoming such a bad investment. It's such a bad commodity to invest in these days. Anyway, like I said, let's move on to the next topic, and that topic is the fact that those who are tasked with protecting this country, the military, the police, they need to wake up, because we now live in a country where they're not protected. We have so many military veterans that are living on the street, and the fact that the suicide rate amongst our veterans is so high is very concerning to me, and it should be concerning to everybody. They're not getting the assistance that they need once they return, whether it be through physical therapy because they lost a limb or an eye or some other problem that they suffered from being in a war zone, or whether it's mental health that they need because they have PTSD. Now, this is something that our military people need to wake up to. And the police need to wake up to this too, because they have been demonized in the past so often as being a drag on the economy, just like teachers, nurses, firefighters. All these people have been demonized as being the drag on the economy in the past, and it will come again, because the rich always have to have somebody to demonize. It's black people at one point, it's Muslims at another point, it's immigrants at another point. And yet, all these people that they're talking about are not the people who are necessarily in control of the economy. But so for some reason, it's always somebody that does not control the economy that is being blamed for the bad economy. That makes no sense, because those who are blaming the all these groups, they're not producers. They're not producing things themselves into any greater return, for any greater return than any of those groups are. I can guarantee you that a billionaire is making money off of his money. He's not necessarily producing things anymore. They just look for investments. Even like Warren Buffett, he's going to look for investments to make money off of his money. So how is he a greater producer than a nurse, than a firefighter? You know, they do not contribute to society. They are actually detracting from society, because their wealth, the increase of their wealth, means that somebody else is getting poorer. Anyway, some of the sources, some of the things that people can do is to look at the history of how our firefighters, our essential workers, our nurses, all these people have been treated historically. They've been treated like crap. People that work at grocery stores, they're underpaid. They've been underpaid, and now all of a sudden, these people that are producing these commercials saying they're heroes and stuff like that. Why weren't they heroes before? Why didn't the rich consider them essential workers before and pay them accordingly? So look these things up. Don't just trust in, you know, what's being said. Oh, another point about the police. Before Occupy Wall Street hit New York, the police were being demonized as being the biggest drag on the economy. Then all of a sudden, when Occupy Wall Street threatens Wall Street and the rich, and they're like, oh, we're worried about this. All of a sudden, the police are given $5 million in New York to go out, pepper spray, and bash Occupy Wall Street protesters. There's a problem with that kind of behavior, and the police need to wake up to that fact. The military needs to wake up to the fact that American government is not taking care of you. If you get hurt in war, or if you get killed, your family's not going to be taken care of. So these things need to be addressed, and are those who serve to protect and serve America need to wake up, because the biggest threat to me is coming from within, and the oath that they take is to protect from enemies without and within. So that's that. The last topic I'd like to talk about is fiat currency. Now, the dollar is a fiat currency because it's no longer based on the gold standard, which was eliminated by Richard Nixon internationally. Of course, before that, in the 30s, America came off the gold standard nationally. But America's money, the dollar, is a fiat currency, which is why our Federal Reserve has been able to just print up trillions of dollars. I mean, it's weird how much money they're printing up, and that they don't seem to think that eventually the people will get upset about how much money they're printing up, because that money does devalue every dollar that's in everybody's pocket, including the super rich. The problem is that the super rich have so much money that, their dollar only being worth 25 cents doesn't affect them, because they have billions and billions of dollars, or to offset that disparity, or that change in the value of their money. So the fiat currency does not help the public. Fiat currencies only serve to help those who are printing up that currency. The dollar is the currency of reserve around the world, because and that basically gives the United States the ability to print up as much money as they want. because everybody is using that, so they can continue to print as much money as they want. Just like if the rest of the country decided that Chris Osmond he could print up the currency that he wants to, and because he has that right, we have to accept it. And because he has that right, he can print up as much as money as he wants. Now, I would love to have that ability because I would print up a lot of money for my family, my friends, my neighbors, everybody I know, and everybody that they know, and everybody that they know. I would print up as much money as they need to survive. And that's exactly what our federal government is doing. And not I wouldn't actually go to the extent that Federal Reserve is printing up, because they're printing up past the point of the amount of money that people need to survive. They're making it so that the people that have all the money already are going to make life so much worse for everybody else, because they're going to control the scarcity in this nation. They're going to keep buying up products. They're going to keep buying up businesses. They're going to keep buying up everybody's home that gets kicked out of their homes. It's a terrible thing that's going on in America, and it's too bad that there were solutions offered. And I'm not even going to say by me anymore. I'm going to say offered by others that were ignored time and time again. And now we're here. Now that we're here, there's still solutions, and people need to wake up and take those solutions to heart. The latest proof that fiat currency is not backed by anything, it's not held accountable by anything, is the fact that Iran is changing. They're getting rid of the rial, and they're creating a new currency called the toman. Now, toman is basically the rial with 4 fewer zeros in its currency. So basically, they're creating a new currency that's going to reduce the size, the perceived size of the value of the fiat that was called the real. That's just like saying, okay, here's some monopoly money. Here's $100 of monopoly money. Now, instead of us calling it monopoly money, we're going to call it Chris dollars. And instead of it being having $100 on the bill, it's going to have $1 on the bill. But that's not really going to save your economy. It's still just going to make it. It's just going to make it so that they don't have to print up as much. While the value of the actual currency continues to go down. They're going to be facing hyperinflation. I mean, there's a lot of issues with Iran because their economy relies so much on oil, and the oil market is tanked. But it's yet another indicator, another example of how fiat currency can be manipulated without just cause, and manipulated in ways that don't really solve the problem, because all fiat currencies eventually crash, and they go into the dustbin of history, and the dollar is a fiat currency. So guess what? Guess where the dollar's future lies. Now, some of the solutions to fiat currency is for people to wake up and protest the currency being printed so much. Go out in the streets whenever it's feasible to do so, when COVID-19 has been defeated. But don't go back to just accepting the things that the Federal Reserve offers and that our federal government offers. Go out in the street and protest these things and stop the use of fiat currency. Make America stronger by having the money that we use and that circulates throughout the world. Have that money be worth something. Have it have an actual value. Have it make it valuable to those partners that we want to trade with across the planet. Right now, the dollar is losing that battle. And if the dollar loses that battle, everybody else is going to lose that battle. Everybody else in America. America's strength over the past few decades has been the fact that people in other nations have looked at the dollar as a valuable asset. Once that's gone, it's going to be gone for a long time. I mean, Britain used to have the reserve currency, the pound, and then after World War II, because of their debts, they lost that standing. Other countries have had the world's reserve currency in the past, and they don't have that now because America is the country with the world's reserve currency. So wake up, get out there and protest when feasible. Not right now. Quarantine should still be in place because, like the Spanish flu, the second wave of COVID-19 could be a bigger problem than the first wave. Now, Another thing that people can do on a local level is to trade or increase trading on a local level or bartering on a local level. Deal with your neighbors, deal with your communities, deal with your cities. Have trade, stay within a local range. In that way, you become less reliant on the federal government. The federal government isn't going to look out for you now anyway. They're trying to eliminate more and more ways to that they take care of us. So be less reliant on the federal government. Be less reliant on the state government. Be less reliant on cities and counties. Just try to trade amongst yourselves if you can. Try to create some kind of system. We need to try to create some kind of system where we are actually bartering or trading amongst ourselves and taking care of each other. Because the government's not, they're showing no unity. Anyway, don't want to keep harping on that. Another possible alternative to fiat currency, and I know a lot of people are going to complain about this, but it's Bitcoin, because Bitcoin has a lot of benefits that the fiat currency could never have. Bitcoin is coming out and turning out to be either a greater store of value than gold in some instances, because gold is not liquid. Once you buy some physical gold, you have to put that in a safe. You have to hold it somewhere. But with Bitcoin, it can be traded in an instant. And the cost of trading that Bitcoin is so low that there is no other currency that can compete with it right now. If you want to trade gold, you have to go through a third party. You have to sell it to somebody. If you buy physical gold, you have to hold on to that gold and store it, keep it in a safe, or keep it somewhere safe. And then to trade it, you have to go get that gold, and you have to take it to a third party, someone that's willing to buy that gold. You might find a neighbor who's willing to buy it, but to test whether or not your gold is real gold is a process that also has to be considered. So trading gold is harder to do than buying and selling Bitcoin, which can be done instantaneously. So consider looking into Bitcoin. Do your own research. Obviously, any investment that you are considering, those things you need to look out for yourself, because I'm just suggesting Bitcoin as an alternative. It's something that I feel is a good alternative to a lot of the investments out there, and it's proving to be an even more solid investment than a lot of things out there. At least you can get some return from Bitcoin, but with stocks, that's all manipulated. The Fed is printing up to buy a bunch of stocks to keep a lot of companies afloat that should have gone out of business. And I'm not talking about just since the outbreak of the virus. I'm talking about before that. For years now, there have been companies that should have gone out of business. But for some reason, on bad news, their stocks go up. On good news, their stocks go up. That makes zero sense, because these companies aren't selling more products. They're not doing more to make themselves more profitable. But speculation causes their stock prices to go up on good and bad news. And that happened up until the catalyst of COVID-19. So our economy was going to crash anyway. Our stock market was going to be on a downward spiral now, and it should be on a downward trending further lower, and it will eventually, because as the Fed continues to print trillions of dollars to have these companies buy up more and more stock, to buy up other companies, to buy up everything, eventually those things are going to be worthless to the majority of the people, and eventually these things will stop. Hopefully, people will wake up to the fact that there are things that they can do to stop some of these corporations. One of the things I suggested earlier in an earlier topic, Wells Fargo. Stop putting your money in Wells Fargo. It might put a damper on their the idea that they think they can get away with anything. If they're losing deposits and losing them by the millions or billions, even if everybody in the country stops putting money in there, then maybe they'll consider not stealing money. So maybe other banks you could have more of an impact on, maybe medium-sized banks you can have more of an impact on. If they're doing wrong by you, you stop putting your money in there, everybody stops going to that one bank, and that bank goes out of business. The other banks will consider not being such harmful bad actors in the future. Anyway, that's the show for today. Tomorrow, join me when I'll be talking about why the government never seems to catch any of these emergencies. They always seem to act after the fact. Even 9/11, it came out that there were all kinds of warnings that the government had been sent, even internally, memos that were talking about an impending attack, but for some reason they weren't able to thwart that attack. And now we have the Patriot Act, which has not only been extended, but it's been increased in its scope as far as denying our privacy. And so I will ask, why does the government always seem to act after the fact? And when they do act, it's in a manner that reduces the privacy of every individual. And those privacies are never returned back. It's always under the guise that, oh, it's just going to be a temporary solution, and then we'll eliminate these bills afterwards. But it never happens. So we're losing our privacy, but we're not gaining more security because they never ever seem to stop anything. I mean, with the pandemic, Trump had the agencies that were to look out for the pandemic, but for some reason he eliminated them. So government is not solving these solutions. They're not catching these emergencies. But what they do is they reduce everybody's privacy in this country. Now you can keep allowing that to happen, or you can stop it. But imagine this: one day you will be surveilled at a moment that you do not want to be surveilled. It's probably already happening, but that's a choice that people seem to make. And the argument that seems to go around is that, oh, I don't do anything that wouldn't require me to have privacy. I bet you do. So consider that. Again, thanks for being with me. This is Solutions. Enough complaining. Let's fix America.